Joining me now is Joel Simon, Executive Director of the Committee to Protect Journalists. Joel, good morning. Thank you for being with us. Obviously, it is unjust for us to think that somehow the workspaces and lives of journalists are any more important than the workspaces and lives of citizens. But there is something potentially sinister about attacks that hamper journalists' ability, as Richard and I were just discussing, to bear witness to what's actually happening and hold power to account.
Yeah, sinister, but there's also a legal question. Journalists they're protected under international law. They have the right to report on newsworthy events. And so any action or act taken by either side in the conflict, but in this context, we're talking about the IDF, that would undermine or threaten that ability is potentially a violation of international humanitarian law.
What can be done about it? This is not actually the easiest part of the world in which to report, because we depend on information that comes from Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, the Israeli government, the Israeli Defense Forces. Yeah. In fact, just the other day, the IDF gave international reporters bad information. Don't know whether it was intentionally dishonest or wrong, but they said that they implied they were invading Gaza. That turned out not to be true. So how do we conduct ourselves when it is our job to bear witness? We are there so that our viewers, our readers, our listeners understand the context of what's going on.
Well, I mean, I think Richard laid it out. I mean, it's an incredibly difficult and dangerous environment in which to report, but journalists have a duty and obligation to do that work under very difficult circumstances and to convey that information to the world. But Ali, I just want to mention one thing. You know, the Israeli authorities have asserted that this building was somehow infiltrated by operatives from Hamas. They provided absolutely no evidence of that, and they have a terrible credibility problem. As indicated, there's a very credible allegation that the IDF misled international journalists about an impending land invasion into Gaza in order to gain a tactical advantage over Hamas. The IDF has denied that, but many journalists believe that occurred. So that creates a huge credibility problem. And when the IDF asserts that Hamas operatives were present in this building, I'm skeptical. The AP has said they saw no evidence of this. They're obviously monitoring the situation very carefully. So I think I think the Israeli government, the IDF, needs to come clean. Was there a military basis for this attack? If not, then you're left with the conclusion that it's part of a concerted effort to inhibit coverage and undermine the ability of journalists to report about what's happening in Gaza right now. And that's information we need.
And this is a problem because, Joel, you and I are old enough to remember when having a flak jacket that says press on it or identification as the media kept you safe. When partisans to a conflict imply that journalists are participating or in some way not objectively reporting facts on the ground, we're not all objective about everything, but when we're reporting facts on the ground like Richard is or like those AP reporters were doing, that puts those journalists in danger. And what it does is it has a chilling effect on us, right? It makes our bosses think maybe we don't go there, maybe we pull people out. It makes independent journalists think I'm not safe if I go there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Richard said it exactly right. Images, but this is not new, Ali. I mean, particularly in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's always been about images. It's always been about the way in which events were portrayed. Obviously, depictions and images of the destruction caused by the Israeli attacks in Gaza undermine the Israeli cause, while those images can create sympathy and can be used by Hamas to advance their political agenda. So journalists are in the middle of this. They know they're being manipulated, but they still have an obligation to do their very best to report the information as accurately and as fairly as possible. And the AP is a media organization which we all know takes this obligation very, very seriously. And that's why the destruction of their facility that housed the AP and Al Jazeera really undermines our ability to understand and contextualize what's happening in Gaza right now.
Joel, thanks for your work. Thanks for your time this morning. Joel Simon is the Executive Director of the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.